Welcome to the online classes from Dhaka Secondary School, North Karachi campus. Assalamu alaikum students of class 8 in the online class of Social Studies. We are studying chapter number 18, Explorers, Scientists and Inventors, and I am your teacher, Miss Uzma. Topics of the day are scientists and inventors, and in this we will study about Sir Henry Bessemer, John Logie, Werner von Braun, Rudolf Diesel, and Sir Frank Whittle. Scientists and inventors: Sir Henry Bessemer, 1813 to 1998. Bessemer was a British inventor and engineer whose discovery of a cheap way of making steel laid the foundation of our modern world. Iron was discovered about 3000 years ago, but when melted in a furnace, it was very crude and brittle. With the Industrial Revolution and the invention of the steam engines and other machinery, there was a desperate need for a cheap steel. In the 1850s, the inventor Bessemer tried to find an inexpensive way of making steel. He discovered that if he blew air through a great crucible of molten iron, all of the impurities burned out in a great sheet of flame 20 meters long and left behind the steel. By adding different chemicals, it could be made into different forms: stainless steel, very hard steel for tools and cutting instruments, spring steel for many purposes. It was cheap and could be produced in large quantities. Here is the factory look of Bessemer's invention. John Logie was a Scottish engineer who invented television. In 1922, he retired to the south of England, where he began experimenting with sending pictures rather than words along telephone lines. His equipment was very crude and the pictures very blurred, but they were recognizable as moving objects. The first demonstration was in London in 1926, and the following year he sent pictures from London to Glasgow along a telephone line. In 1928, he sent images to New York, this time by radio waves. Baird also experimented with color and stereo pictures. This footage from the BBC shows the first man to ever appear on television in the UK. William Tainton was told by his boss John Logie to sit for him in the main seat while he experimented with. Television pictures are made up of horizontal lines across the screen. Today we use 525 or 805 lines to make up one image. Baird at first used only 30 lines but later increased this to 240. Unfortunately, his system was mechanical, involving a large disc with holes drilled in it which spun around to produce a picture. BBC in London opened the world's first television service in 1929, but it was available to only a few people in that city. Rebels, Marconian and EMI soon joined in and developed a totally new system using the cathode ray tube that is still found in older television sets. Their system was much better and clearer, as it is used 405 lines to begin with. When television services were open to a wider public in the late 1930s, it was the Marconi EMI system that was used, and Baird's work became just a footnote to history. Werner von Braun. He was a German rocket scientist. The giant V2 rocket was designed under his supervision. This was very successful when it was used in the last month of World War II, as there was no defense against it. It killed many thousands of people in London. It is said that if it had been ready earlier, the Germans might well have won the war. After the war, von Braun was taken to the USA to help with the development of their rocket program. Under Braun's guidance, the 110-meter long Saturn V rocket was built, which launched the Apollo spacecraft that landed the first man on the moon. Von Braun's skills and knowledge were used for progress and peaceful purposes. Rudolf Diesel. He was a German engineer who invented the diesel engine in 1892. His invention was important because it used the cheaper and lighter oil called diesel. After him, and the engines being more powerful were used for trucks, trains, and similar heavy vehicles. They are also more economical than petrol engines. Sir Frank Whittle. He was a British aeronautical engineer who invented the jet engine. He joined the Royal Air Force RAF in 1926. He demonstrated the RAF that such an engine might be possible, and he was given the workshop and facilities to work on his scheme. By 1941, the first experimental aircraft fitted with a jet engine made its test flight, and such aircraft were in regular service in the late years of World War II. The jet engine, which is fitted to almost every commercial aeroplane today, has many advantages. It is much faster, it is simpler, with far fewer moving parts. It uses the low grade, cheaper diesel fuel rather than the highest quality petroleum, and produces far more power to drive bigger and bigger aeroplanes. Cross section drive of jet engine. Fans at the front suck in air and compress it in the combustion or burning chamber. These are what you can see turning when the aircraft is on the ground. The burning fuel and air rushes out of the back of the engine, pushing it forward like a rocket. On its way out, it turns another fan, which is connected by a rod to the compression fan at the front. Questions are in front of you. Do them carefully. Thank you.